So we've had a question mark from Richard on social media, and he said, at what point does the government commit a contempt of Parliament by making policy announcements to the media rather than to the House of Commons?
Of course, this is one of the big irritants that really annoys speakers. Generations of speakers have railed about this. MPs are supposed to hear first when there's a big change or development in government policy. Almost invariably, they actually hear it first on the Today programme or in the newspapers, and that really gets up the nose of generations of speakers. So when does it become a contempt? Is there some kind of cumulative process where you sort of 3 strikes and it's contempt? The answer to that is no. My suspicion is, even though this seriously annoys speakers, and even though it seriously annoys backbenchers and select committee chairs and people to whom it hasn't been mentioned first, this doesn't ever become a contempt, because the only way something becomes a contempt of Parliament is if there's a vote in the House of Commons declaring something to be a contempt of Parliament. And so however annoyed people may get with a minister who's going out there making those announcemements, the chances are that there's never going to be that vote, because essentially that would mean a Prime Minister and a government being prepared to throw one of their ministers to the wolves, which is at any rate inelegant.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what we've got at the moment is Lindsay Hoyle getting pretty angry every week, admonishing the minister. They take it on the chin, and they're back the next week doing exactly the same thing. And I think it's really instructive to ask the question. The opposition get annoyed about this as well. But once they're in government, if they get into government after the next election, what will they do? And I would wager quite a hefty amount that they will be doing exactly the same thing. Because you've got a real issue here that, modern communications combined not very well with parliamentary sitting times. No communication director for the government worth their salt is going to say to the minister, yes, minister, don't make your announcement until 2:30 on a Monday afternoon, or Parliament doesn't sit every Friday, so they can't do anything, you've got to wait till the following Monday. It's just not going to happen. This has been going on for decades. The Speaker's trying to enforce the ministerial code. I mean, Parliament, the House of Commons has never actually said itself in a resolution of the House that it doesn't want ministers to do this. It's actually enshrined in the ministerial code, which is issued under the Prime Minister's signature. So that Lindsay Hoyle keeps standing up and reminding ministers that they should be adhering to the ministerial code. But if MPs really, really, really care about this, they should pass a resolution of the House, or they should take one of the issues and refer it to the Privileges Committee.
But that, of course, is very unlikely to happen. And absent that, a Speaker of the House doesn't really have any great power other than to deliver a stinging rebuke. I mean, John Bercow used to make a habit when he was Speaker of allowing an urgent question on something that had been announced elsewhere than in the Chamber of the Commons, and then letting it run for quite a while. I can remember, I think it was Greg Clark, when he was a junior minister before he entered the cabinet, was kept on his feet in the Commons for a really quite disturbingly long time. I can't even remember the issue now, but he was kept up there facing questions for a really long time. And at the end of it all, when Bercow finally drew it to a close, he did sort of Jeremy Paxman like, yes, and if the minister doesn't want to go through that again, he should make sure he follows the proper protocol and announces things here first, here, and
then do it again the next week.
And then, of course, it all rinse and repeat. The whole thing started happening again.
Yeah, I mean, I think this comes back to what solution is there? MPs could ask for an inquiry. They could get Privileges Committee to look at it. Procedure Committee could look at it. But in the end, unless there's a change in sitting arrangements or some new mechanism to enable ministers to make statements earlier, it's just going to carry on. And you could maybe say, well, we'll refine it. Does this apply to all announcements? Is it a separate sort of approach to major announcements? Or mini announcements? Maybe it's that the House actually cares about the really sort of big financial or legislative announcements where the government's assuming, before asking Parliament its view, it's assuming that Parliament's going to agree. And there's arguably a constitutional question there about whether it should be making such assumptions. So maybe those things should have a different approach to them. But you could, can you imagine having a sort of debate with a minister who's making the case that actually their announcement is quite a minor matter and they should be allowed to get away with it? So it sounds easy to say that they should make those statements to Parliament, but actually the context means it's quite difficult, and I think the opposition will do just the same when they get into government.
Yeah, and that's the pungent irony about this, of course. The self-same opposition shadow ministers who complain vociferously about the outrageous affront to the privileges of the House of someone making an announcement elsewhere, as soon as they become ministers, as soon as their party's in government, they will do exactly what they're complaining about. Yeah. And the people who were doing what they were complaining about before will equally quickly, and with just as much aplomb, take the other view and start complaining about the outrageous behaviour of ministers in not making these announcements in the chamber, and everyone will hear furiously on all sides, and it will just, I think, undermine everybody's credibility because it's such an absurd fandango to perform.
Yeah, and this is the endless problem that organisations like the Hansard Society face when you're trying to persuade people about the case for parliamentary reform. The opposition get it when they're in opposition. As soon as they enter the doors of number 10 and the sort of ministerial offices, it's like, oh, we can't do that now.
Yeah, the proverb is there's kind of there's just a brief moment before the reality of office catches up with the new government and they decide they don't want more scrutiny than they were getting.
Yeah, and how quick will it be before all those people currently on ministerial offices, if they end up back in opposition, how quickly will it be before they actually sort of decide, oh really, we do need some reforms to ensure better ministerial accountability.